There's a moment in midlife when the world stops giving you gentle reminders and starts dropping hints with a bit more force. You don't plan for it. You don't put it on your calendar. It arrives the way winter arrives, quietly at first, and then one morning, you open your eyes and everything feels colder than you remember. People think this shift happens at 40. Some swear it happens at 50. But the truth is, if you want to catch it, you start noticing it after 45. And by the time you hit your late 50s or early 60s, it's sitting across from you every morning like an old familiar roommate. This video is about that moment, the moment you realize next year isn't far away anymore. The moment you understand that ignoring time doesn't make it pause. And the moment you understand that the rest of your life, your clarity, mobility, energy, memory, independence, will be shaped by the choices you make right now. Everyone over 45 needs to hear this before next year arrives, because next year doesn't care what you planned, but it will absolutely respond to what you start doing today. So let's talk about the 3 big truths people discover too late, and the 3 decisive shifts that can change the entire shape of your life from this point forward. I'll start with the truth most people don't want to admit. The clock isn't your enemy, but it is a brutally honest teacher. Somewhere between 45 and 65, the years begin to speed up. You feel it most during quiet moments. A season passes before you even finish adjusting to it. You see old photos of yourself and wonder when your hair changed, when your posture shifted, when your eyes started telling stories you didn't realize you'd lived. But the part nobody warns you about is this. You don't notice the first decline. You notice the second decline. The first one is silent. It takes place in your muscles, your joints, your attention span, your metabolism. It starts slow, like a dimmer switch quietly turning down the brightness. The second decline is the one that announces itself. You wake up stiffer. You walk up the stairs a little slower. You forget what you entered the room for. You need more rest than before. You lose the margin you used to rely on. And most people think that second decline is the beginning. They think this is just aging. But aging didn't start today. It started 10 years ago, and today is simply when you noticed. The good news is, something almost nobody believes until they feel it for themselves. Your body is far more reversible than you've been told. Your brain is far more adaptable than you assume. Your future is far more plastic than your past. Decline is only destiny when you mistake it for inevitability. The body doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for signals. And the signals you send it in your 50s, 60s, and 70s can rebuild more than most people realize. But to do it, you need to confront the second truth. Most of what you fear about aging is optional. Some fears are universal. Losing independence, losing clarity, losing physical power, losing the ability to make your own decisions, losing the version of yourself you once recognized. But talk to anyone in their 70s or 80s who's thriving, really thriving, and they'll tell you something surprising. Very little of what scares us is fate. Most of it is habit. Most of it is pattern. Most of it is a signal we ignored too long. People don't lose mobility because they turn 60. They lose mobility because they stop sending the body the message, I still need this. People don't lose sharpness because they retired. They lose sharpness because their brains stop being challenged the way it once was. People don't lose energy because of age. They lose energy because of accumulated decisions, tiny ones, stacked over a decade. And here's the twist. You can reverse the direction at any age. It doesn't matter if you're 47 or 67 or 72. Human physiology loves a comeback story. Bones remodel, muscles regrow, neural pathways rewire, balance returns, posture changes, cardiovascular capacity improves, inflammation calms, sleep stabilizes. You can rebuild more of yourself than you think. But there's a catch, a big one. You have to decide before next year arrives, because waiting is the costliest habit of all. Which brings us to the third truth, the one people resist the most. You're not running out of time. You're running out of excuses. This isn't meant as an accusation. It's meant as the reset button nobody presses until the doctor does it for them. Here's the part that stings a little because it's real. You know you should walk more. You know you should build strength. You know you should sleep better. You know you should reduce stress. You know you should change a few habits. You know you should be kinder to your brain. You know you should take your health more seriously than your schedule. But next year is the easiest place to hide your intentions. Saying, "I'll start soon," is a way of comforting yourself with a story that costs nothing in the moment and everything in the long term. People don't delay because they're lazy. People delay because they think they have more time. But the reality for anyone between 55 and 70 is this: your margin for delay is shrinking. Your margin for improvement is not. There's a world of difference between those two. So let's talk about something more useful than fear. Let's talk about what actually changes the next 10 years of your life. Because the next section is the part people come back to months later and say, that was the moment everything shifted. The 3 shifts you must make before next year. These aren't trends. They're not New Year's resolution fluff. They're structural changes, the kind that bend the curve of your aging. Shift number 1. Build strength like your life depends on it, because it does. You don't need a gym. You don't need a trainer. You don't need fancy equipment. What you need is the signal of resistance. Muscle is the body's retirement account. You build it now, you spend it later. People lose independence not because of disease, but because of weakness. The moment you can no longer get up from a chair without using your arms, you've crossed a threshold nobody tells you about. Strength training after 50 is the closest thing we have to anti-aging. 3 movements matter most: push, pull, and rise. Push from the floor or wall. Pull with a band or a simple door anchor. Rise from a chair without using your hands. Do these consistently, and your future self will thank you louder than your present self can imagine. Shift number 2. Send your brain a challenge every day. The brain isn't fragile. It's selective. It keeps what you use and quietly deletes what you don't. If you do the same things every day in the same order with the same level of effort, your brain trims itself down to match that lifestyle. But challenge, novelty, difficulty, new patterns reverses the direction. Learn something, practice something, solve something, break routine. It doesn't matter if it's music, language, puzzles, woodworking, chess, writing, strategy games, lectures, or anything that forces the mind to stretch. Stability without challenge feels comfortable, but it ages the brain faster than stress does. Next year will reward you for the challenges you take on today. Shift number 3. Protect your energy like it's your currency. Energy isn't random. It's earned and preserved. After 45, and especially after 55, energy becomes the central predictor of your health. Not weight, not diet, not age. Energy. When energy declines, everything declines with it. When energy improves, everything rises. People drain energy without noticing. Too many obligations, too much worry, too little sleep, too little recovery, too much noise, too much digital distraction. Energy is what fuels decisions. Decisions are what shape habits. Habits are what shape your future. If you want next year to be different, you don't start with discipline. You start with energy. You sleep earlier, you hydrate more, you walk daily, you breathe deeper, you rest without guilt, you simplify commitments, you remove the noise that steals your attention. Energy is the root. Everything else grows from that soil. The line you cross between 45 and 70. There's one final idea that people in their 50s and 60s understand in their bones, even if they don't say it out loud. You realize that time is no longer infinite, and that realization doesn't depress you, it focuses you. You start valuing quality over speed, connection over convenience, purpose over productivity, presence over plans, health over hustle. And that shift, if you follow it, transforms the last chapters of your life into the richest ones. People think aging is decline, but for many, aging is refinement. The clutter falls away, the noise fades, the ego softens, the priorities sharpen. Your life becomes a distilled version of what mattered all along. But the foundation of that life, the life you want to live at 65, 70, 75, starts with choices you make before next year arrives. Not dramatic choices, not perfect choices, just intentional ones. The difference between someone who ages naturally and someone who ages powerfully isn't luck. It's the moment they stop postponing the life they want and start preparing the body and mind that can support it. That moment can be today. So here's the quiet invitation lodged at the center of this entire message. Before next year arrives, choose one thing. Not 10, not 5, one. One habit, one challenge, one shift, one decision. Strength, brain, energy. Pick one and build around it, because something strange happens around 60. Small improvements echo louder. Tiny habits reshape the entire system. One change becomes 3. 3 become 10. 10 become momentum. Momentum becomes identity. And once your identity shifts, next year becomes unrecognizable in every good way. You're not running out of time. You're standing at a turning point, one that most people never recognize until too late. But you recognize it now, and that gives you power. Everyone over 45 needs to hear this before next year, because next year arrives with no sympathy and no negotiation. But it does reward preparation. It rewards strength. It rewards clarity. It rewards decisive beginnings. And that beginning can start even with the smallest step, the moment this video ends. The next chapter of your life is already waiting for you. The only question is whether you meet it prepared or surprised. Prepared is better. Prepared is stronger. Prepared is freer. Next year is coming. Meet it on your terms.